lost your
Can you
audio.
hear me now?
Yep, that's better.
Back.
Sorry, I had to the studio.
Oh, nice.
Can you see
yeah.
that?
Yeah. So
I
that
have
was
to
a
turn my
PoE?
laptop.
Yeah, it looks like a PoE.
Yeah, it's a PoE coil based off of the
Nice.
design of Erica and Daniel Nunez of First Stop Energies. And it's all color
Amazing.
coordinated, so you can see the channels here. Channel A is red in, out is black. Channel B is yellow and green. And that's going to like a custom circuit that I have with a little rectifier and a DC motor. And it's also got a couple of 3 LED lights. So it's powering a load while it's doing this. It's doing actual work.
Right.
That's awesome.
And
I see you
look
got
at
a
the
metal
numbers
ball.
here,
That's
yeah, at
amazing.
3 kilohertz, I was getting about 3.5 volts on the input, 0.15 amps on the input, and on the output, I was getting 6.1 volts and 0.2 amps on the output. That's 113% gain.
There you go.
Right? I mean, it's tiny increments. It's you know, like, but it's a proof of concept that this stuff works.
Yeah, over unity is fact.
Right. And nature does it all the time. So to discredit that is kind of ridiculous. But I have the neodymium sphere set up. I'm going to show you the low end frequency.
Yeah, I want to see it spin. Is it going to spin or?
Yeah, it's going to spin like not. Here we go. Oh, look at that. We're at 4 hertz right now. I haven't even touched it.
Can you,
and again, I forget his name, but like you said, it could be running and running and running, and it won't get hot.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that?
We can't see it. Try it again. Oh yeah, see. Right. Yeah, so you got a spinning field there. Yep.
Yeah, so that's 4 hertz, and if I take out my magnetic pull detector, we can see if we can detect a pull, but I wasn't able to detect one except at very high gain.
Yeah, that's the 0 point. It's just following the field going in a circle.
Right.
If you put more voltage and more current, that ball should be spinning around and around and around.
Right. Yeah, the correct frequency and input.
Yeah.
Here's 5 hertz. It's going a little bit faster.
Yeah. Yeah, if you speed it up even faster, it should go all the way around.
Right. Yeah. See, it wants to synchronize. See, it's wanting to synchronize with the field, but I haven't achieved it quite yet.
Now, I've seen somebody do a similar experiment with that. Hold the magnetic ball in a cup about 2 feet away, and it's still spinning.
When you capture the magnetic moment, you've reached magnetic synchronicity, and you can do that. You can get it synchronized with the vortex field, and then take it outside like 15 feet, and you'll still affect it.
And it will still affect it, yeah.
Yep, and you can even power down the coil, and you can see it still affecting it for a little bit of time. Because the coil, it kind of stores energy. That's what it seems like.
Cool.
And now let's bust out the tone generator. We got a tone generator here. I'm gonna put it on 800. Oh, that's a little bit too fast. Yeah, baby.
It almost flew off the table.
Yeah. Every step of the way, this coil has surprised me.
Testing 1 2.
And we're getting 3.6 volts on the output. Let's take a look at the input.
Try slowing down the pulse rate.
2.3 volts on the input. Can you see that?
Take off the light on it.
Oh, take off the light?
Yeah, take off the light. Yeah, now we can see it.
2.350 on the input. That's voltage.
Yeah.
And you got 3.638 on the output.
Yep, there you go.
Yep. And it's powering a load. And I wanted to make sure it's, I wanted to see how it would affect the DC and the AC at the same time. So, I kind of split the circuit a little bit, but it didn't seem to affect it at all.
That's awesome, man.
So you can power
this is epic
motor
work,
and
Ben.
power a light.
Yeah.
I like the duct tape.
Yeah, but I did
Yep.
notice that without the capacitor, it kind of stops and you have to re-jump it, so the signal's kind of
Yeah.
jumpy.
Yeah, you have to give it some capacitance. It doesn't have enough capacitance in the coil to drive it. So yeah, a capacitor definitely will help.
It's incredible. Like this coil, and it wasn't that hard to do. You know, it took some time, but I think almost any engineer could whip up one of these.
Is that the rodent coil?
It's
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
POE
I'm
it's
gonna be
similar to
putting-
the rodent coil.
Yeah, it's
By the
based
Nunez.
on Rodin's math, but it's
So I'm going to be putting out a comprehensive text guide this weekend, and then a
Yeah, but
demo
doesn't-
video to go along with it.
That's
isn't
awesome.
Daniel Nunez's work based on the Rodin coil?
Yes. So
Yeah, okay.
Daniel and Erica Nunez of First Stop Energies was they pretty much perfected this coil, and they were open sourcing it. But their mistake was they tried to patent it, and ever since then they kind of went off the circuit. I haven't heard
Yeah.
from them.
Right?
I
He
haven't
deleted all their
been able
videos
to
and
find any
stuff.
information on them.
Yeah, like literally
Yeah, all their
Yeah,
videos
they-
were taken down off of
got taken
YouTube,
down.
and I
Yeah.
know they were
A
taken down off of
patent-
YouTube.
The patent means that it's not open source. If it's got patent, it's not open source.
Well, they were.
I
No,
thought I
they
heard-
patented a version of it, but they were showing people how to set this up.
Yep.
They were selling
Yeah.
kits, is what they were doing.
Yeah.
But they had a version of this coil that was patented. You can go online; it's the patent's still pending. It's not
Yeah.
called the
Didn't
POE
somebody-
coil. I can send you the link, but
Yeah,
it's
please
got some
do.
weird name, but it's basically the same design.
Didn't somebody take them to court, like to
Yeah,
shut
they're
them down? Personal, like,
Yeah, I
you know what
wouldn't
mean?
doubt it. I wouldn't
Yeah,
doubt it.
yeah.
that's
That
what they
usually
do.
happens when you find something, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they'll go after you financially. They'll tie you up
Yep.
in court, and they'll basically try to bankrupt you. Is what they're going to do.
Right.
That's
And
part
that's
of-
why I'm not interested in
that-
making money. I just want to study
Yeah,
it. I just want to
gotta
study the
open
science
source.
and maybe have people
Yeah.
replicate this.
100%.
I'm so broke,
Good
I ain't
on
got two
you,
nickels
Ben.
to rub together.
Open
So let them
source.
come after me. I don't care.
So I'm gonna run this
Haven't
coil a
got a
little
pot
bit,
to
and then
piss.
we're gonna do it temperature test. If that's
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes,
do
please.
that.
I'll highlight you
Yeah,
on
I want to see what's
screen.
happening in the
This
middle of that
is
coil.
amazing stuff. I'm stoked. Like I've been trying to
Even if
find
it's a few
anything
degrees,
on
that shows
Bermuda's.
because you're only
Well,
because you're only using like 2.3 volts, right? You're not using much voltage, so you might get
Yeah.
a degree or two changing. But if you got it up over 25 volts going in, you might see some more dramatic temperature changes, right?
yeah,
So
I'd like
try to
try
step it up.
pump
Don't be
couple of
afraid.
Well, the
Yeah,
thing is
don't
with
be
this
afraid.
stereo receiver, it's an old stereo receiver, so I think it's shutting off because the energy coming back in is just too much for it. Like it's multiplying the energy
It's
going
like
and then coming back in, shutting it down if I go too high on the gain.
Yeah, it's feeding back. It's a feedback.
You need
It's
to
like a
use
feedback
resistors.
loop.
Yeah, you need to use resistors on your feedback, like your ground from your PoE back to
Okay.
your stereo. If you use resistors, those resistors are going to heat up, but you'll be able to sustain your output.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I could try that for the next version of the system.
Make sure you keep those resistors cold because they could melt.
Heat.
Yeah,
Yep.
What
but it depends
ohms
how
are
much
we
power
talking
he's putting
about?
through it, right? Like he's not putting too much. Like an amp's not. It's not going to melt. Well,
No,
then
no,
again,
I'm saying if he's going in higher potentials, like if he's hitting
Right.
like
Yeah.
And are we
25
looking at
volts or
the
that's
whatever.
what I mean. You never know, right? You get that surge from an output on a PoE, it could melt some shit. You never know.
Yeah.
If you're pulsing, you can control
Right.
heat with your pulse rate.
Yeah, to a point. Yeah, it all depends on the
Low
what do you
frequency.
call it? The resistance
frequency.
in the coil. Have you tested how many ohms resistance that coil is?
So actually I haven't
It
looked at the resistance
Looks
yet.
looking
But
at it.
it's going to
100
be
ohms.
less efficient than the Nunez design, specifically because I screwed up the bundle. When you're bundling the wire, you want it to be uniform. And unfortunately, I didn't tighten it enough when I was twisting the wires together. So there's a couple of spaces where the wires kind of like jump up a little bit and aren't packed together. So that I suspect is affecting the system in some way.
100%. Bob
when Daniel
Grenier
Nunes-
states with like the exact same thing with his windings as Keshi and the Magrav, all of them, that you have to have that same consistency throughout in the spin to maintain the field unity of the geometrics of it.
Yeah,
Right,
that
yeah.
field unity is because of the skin effect. Each additional line actually multiplies the one after it. That's why you have to get it really tight.
Right. So they have to be like compacted.
Yeah.
No, that all makes sense because you're taking two counter-rotating magnetic fields and you're compressing them on top of each other in such a way that you create that singularity.
Yeah, and you have to follow it to their uniform path. Otherwise, it doesn't quite work well.
Right. And there's specifically a more advanced version of the PoE coil before they went silent. And what they did was basically they just made the openings on the coil frame very thin, V-shaped, so that you can only fit one wire at a time, but you're fitting them on top of each other so they're perfectly symmetrically in a line, right? And that seemed to, they claimed that version was so advanced,
cancel out.
right, that it didn't produce any O3, which is a common
It
problem.
cancels out. You get identical signals cancel each other.
Right, exactly.
You have to have different flow rates of current as well.
And I'm also seeing that because you don't really get to know and understand these systems until you work with them. Theory can only bring you so far. But I'm starting to see that the rodent coil has multiple resonant frequencies. There's one on the lower end and one on the higher end. And on the lower end, it has a strong electromagnetic field, and on the higher end, it seems to produce tiny amounts of overunity, at least in my system.
Yeah, start playing with higher voltages.
I do have because they do recommend a HV capacitor. I'm not sure if my coil.
Yeah, high voltage.
But yeah, it's supposed to output high voltage, and it does this. The secret to their design is the method that they use is an open circuit system.
Yeah.
Where
open
they
loop.
use an open loop, and I guess it leaves room for it to resonate more in the cavity.
Yeah.
Well, the open part is when the transistor's gate is open. That's the open part of the pulse. So you have a pulse. There's an on and an off. During the off portion of this loop is the portion they're calling the open part.
Right.
When it's off.
So is it not
portion is when the flyback occurs.
Because it is being closed by the load.
When you close the gate, you create a load. The coil is the load.
Yeah, but
when you close the gate, you're connecting the other end of the battery to the coil.
Mike, this is
you're charging it.
You're talking conventional systems, though. The PoE and systems that me and
it's a pulse. It's a pulse system, right? That you're using here.
Yeah, I'm pulsing it with AC.
So there's an on and off. During the off, the coil inverts its polarity.
Understood, but they're dynamic systems. They're not just one coil, one transistor. Do you know what I mean? They work as
they're the bifilar. I know one direction, one back the other. I get back the other way. I get you.
So you're saying
how did you phrase that again, BeneFactor? Two fields in and how did you just said the specified you described
two counter-rotating magnetic fields compressed.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
Two counter-rotating magnetic fields. That's exactly right.
That's the pinch.
Right, and it's the secret is when you combine the resonance with the geometry, and that's if you look at the Tesla coil, he had the resonance right on that coil to maximize the voltage, but he wasn't choosing the path of least resistance for his coils. Absolutely. So when you combine the two, I believe you can achieve over unity.
I think
with a third coil, maybe.
I think Tesla was using a path of least resistance, but he kept it hidden from the public.
Yeah, that's very true.
If you look at his patents, they were inverted and they were upside down. So
that's really, right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, like his Tesla coil is actually a receiver.
Wow.
You reverse it, right? If you use the secondary as a primary, you can actually step down the power and
That's right.
very interesting. Tesla.
Yeah, and when you see, because that
Right.
explains why he used high voltage when it went to the second coil, because it's in harmonic resonance with the first Tesla coil. It's going to harmonically resonate at the same frequency and the same voltage. So the primary coil, which is usually what triggers the secondary, he now made that into the step down transformer. So
Absolutely. And then there's a spark gap in there for regulating the
Right.
frequency
Go grab my
and
thermometer.
everything.
yeah,
He made the secondary was a step down.
yes, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when you reverse it.
That's
Yep.
hard to believe.
No, not at all. It's a transformer, Mike. It's
Oh
just
wait, he was stepping down. What was he stepping down? Super high
okay.
voltage?
Yeah. So okay, you got
then I get it.
you
I
have
get
to
it now. I get it. I get it. I get it.
listen. You got the first Tesla coil. That's your transmitter. Okay.
Yeah, no, I
Works
get it now. You're
conventional.
stepping down super high voltage into the secondary. Then
Right.
he goes into the primary.
Okay. So my question to you is this: what happens when you step down from a high voltage to a low voltage?
You gain
What
in
happens?
amps. You convert voltage to amps.
Exactly.
You don't lose
Exactly.
anything. You convert everything. Nothing is
That's
lost.
right. Now you're
Unless
creating
there's heat.
horsepower. Now you're creating
Unless there's heat.
horsepower. Now you're creating horsepower with the second coil. It's not physically connected to the first coil. So therefore there's no draw off the first coil. It's just doing its thing, right?
So what you're
And that-
saying now is actually one of the secrets to the Wardenclyffe Tower. Now think about that, because
Yep.
radio frequencies are only voltage. There's no current. So
That's
if you
right.
could literally
Well, that all
collect the
depends
radio
on the duty
frequency-
cycle of the radio frequency.
If you could
That all
collect the
depends
radio
on-
frequency on the secondary of a Tesla coil and step it down through the primary, just like
Yeah.
Mike was describing, you now have a free energy system through the radio.
There you go. Well, way over unity.
Right. Gerald, by the way, radio frequencies don't have much current because their duty cycle is very narrow.
They don't need it. You just need to collect that.
Right, they don't
send
need
to
it.
the
They just
ground.
need the pulses for the sound wave.
Yeah, and when you send it to the ground, you literally collect it as it's flowing through to the ground.
But that doesn't mean you can't send radio signals with a wider duty cycle and transmit amps.
Yeah, true.
You don't
you
need
don't
to.
need to.
Yeah, you don't need to, because as soon as you're stepping it down, that's where your gains happen. You know,
Yeah, better.
True.
Yeah.
If you're collecting high frequency, high voltage radio signals and stepping it down to a low voltage
huge
low
current.
then you
You got
Yeah,
huge
because
current.
that spark gap is what regulates
Right.
the frequency, right?
Exactly, Mike.
Yeah, the ohms
That's
is
right.
doing something real crazy. Look at that. I put it on the ohm setting.
You could have an intermittent short, or I don't know if your
Is your
transistors
device
connected.
on? If your device is on, shut it off. Just
Right.
do it with
It
just
could be
with the
pulsing.
meter. Yeah, shut your coil off.
The only way to measure the resistance of the coil BeneFactor is you have to have it disconnected from the circuit.
Yeah,
Oh, I
that's
see.
right.
Okay,
Yeah,
there we go.
disconnect okay, so you got what is 3.7.
At least one end has to be disconnected from the
Yeah.
circuit. Then you can measure.
Was that
I'm a layman still, so
it's,
Yeah.
3.7 ohms, right?
yeah, 3.7.
That's low.
All learning live.
What is that? 18 gauge or 15
Yeah, so
gauge?
you-
So
So
yeah,
that's good.
No,
You
this
have
is
very
great. I love having this. I love having you guys here to help me and
And
explain
vice
some of the
versa.
things that I'm seeing.
So 3.7 ohms. 3.7 ohms. That means you have very little resistance in that coil. That's a good thing.
But enough to create a draw, enough to create flow.
That's cool.
Yeah,
No,
as long as you have a little bit of resistance in there, or inductance, right? You can increase the inductance by actually putting a metal core in the middle of the donut, but you don't want that. You want to create that 0 point in the middle.
right.
So even though that your ohms resistance of the coil is low, as long as you got a bit there, it's going to draw current into the system.
Oh, so you're saying
there will be
a little bit of resistance is necessary for that energy to transfer
sure, yes, to a point.
to a point.
Now you could go.
Well, let's say you got 5 ohms and 100, and what is your voltage? 12 volts, 14?
It was
No,
like
he's
3 point something on the output.
Yeah, he's
oh,
using
no.
a
What's
low
your source?
voltage.
What are you feeding it?
Oh yeah, the source is a stereo amp receiver. It was reading, I think, 1.6
Sound?
going in.
Volts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you use a low voltage.